It is a source of frustration and heartache within the U.S. military because even as the war in Afghanistan is winding down, the suicide rate among our troops continues to climb. In fact, it's skyrocketing. It's a number nobody ever wants to see. The U.S. Army has a record high monthly rate of suicides in July. Experts say that multiple deployments put strain on soldiers' relationships, so a lot of them came back facing divorce and financial problems. Those stresses may be behind the 38 suspected suicides among soldiers last month. 26 of those who took their lives were on active duty. It's more than double the June total of 12. How to prevent the suicides is a question top brass are focusing on now more than ever.
The Army has a program called Comprehensive Soldier Fitness, which deals a lot with mental toughness and how to cope with different skills, especially for our younger soldiers.
Now, let me tell you that we imagine soldiers to be made of steel, but that's not always the case. The Army has dedicated this September, has designated it as Suicide Prevention Month. Oftentimes we imagine soldiers to be strong, but in fact many return to their families under great stress, haunted by what they've seen and done. Joining me today is retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Jerry Webster, a veteran who knows the horrors of war. We'll be talking with Oklahoma's Secretary of Military and Veterans Affairs, retired Major General Rita Aragon. We thank you both for being here, but let me talk to you first. You wrote this book because you came home, had problems, your wife said you need to get help, you sought help and you received it. But what triggered it? How did you know something was wrong? It was events that happened when you were in combat.
Well, Linda, you really don't know that it's going on as far as an individual, because as it comes along slowly, it just becomes a part of your life. And it takes somebody that's out there that's strong enough to come up and say, you know, this is going on, something's happening.
And your wife did that?
Yes, ma'am. She was right there with me. She's been my biggest support in this whole disability of the PTSD. So I went ahead and went to the VA, talked to them, and they started getting me going with a PTS recovery program, which was a great help. And
part of the problem is that as a soldier, you're trained to kill, and you did in close combat, and that image continues to haunt you, the life that you took over there.
Yes, ma'am. You go over to do your missions, and missions, it does call for sometimes excessive force where you have to take the life of that individual, sometimes even a child, and then you come home and you face your family, and you're thinking, you know, how can I face them because of the lives I've took? I've caused some child not to be able to go to their dad or something in that effect.
And in truth also, it was completely against what you'd been brought up to do, which is, as a Christian, you don't kill.
Correct. You know, it weighs down heavily because you're over there in the combat zone, you don't have a second chance to think about it. But you can't help it, in the back of your mind somewhere, you think of the words that, you know, you've been taught your whole life while being in church. And so the book came to me actually from church, and it's just balancing religion, the family life, and the combat life, and how you can find that very good balance between the three.
Apparently you're one of many people focused on this and having difficulties with that. General Aragon, you've looked at this problem over the past year and you've seen the numbers rise, those troop members who are killing themselves.
It's true, Linda. We've talked about suicide rate has doubled for the last 3 years in a row, and 25% of all suicides in Oklahoma are military or veterans, and that's an extraordinary number considering we're less than 10% of the population.
What do we need to be doing? What do you tell people when they come to you with their problems?
Well, there's an enormous amount of resources, and I know we have this on linked onto your, but it's to call and talk to those who are now suffering from any kind of mental disorder, but particularly for post-traumatic stress.
And the VA has started putting more psychiatrists and psychologists on staff to deal with the numbers that are coming through.
They have, and the other part is looking at your local neighborhood and what kind of resources are there. We have Heartline here in Oklahoma City. We have a number of national call lines, but we're also working with different veteran service organizations to train and prepare those folks to go out and help families learn the signs and symptoms of suicide.
Rita Aragon, thank you very much. Jerry Webster, we appreciate you. And the bottom line and the message has to be to everyone that if somebody from your family has returned from war and is not the person they were when they left, perhaps they need some intervention. If you need to talk to somebody, or if you know someone who does need help, we've set up links to websites. You can get them at KFOR.com/links, or you can call the Veterans Crisis Line. General Aragon gave us this number, 1-800-273